So imagine this, a message in a bottle, sealed up tight with wax, washes up on this super remote Irish island. Inside, a desperate plea for help. And what starts out as just a cool find on the beach, well, it spirals into this massive global mystery. It connects this tiny little island to a ghost ship that vanished 5 years earlier, clear on the other side of the world, right in the middle of the Pacific. Okay, so our story really kicks off in July of 2025 on the coast of Innis Oer, one of Ireland's Aran Islands. It's here that a completely random discovery is about to dredge up this long-forgotten maritime tragedy and splash it all over the internet, basically reigniting a case that was officially, and I mean officially, closed for years. You've got two friends who find this bottle wedged in a rock pool. It's sealed so tight with the cork and wax that they actually have to smash it to get it open. And their first thought? Yeah, it's got to be a prank, right? I mean, the paper looked old, but the writing inside was just surprisingly clear. But then they posted it to Reddit, and once the message, which was written in Indonesian, was translated, a much more chilling story started to come out. The note claimed 3 people were stranded, they were injured, and they were on some unknown island, and they'd been lost since December of 2020. This was definitely not a prank. This was a real SOS. And this right here is where the real mystery begins. Is this just some elaborate and, let's be honest, pretty cruel hoax? Or is this a genuine, final, desperate message that somehow survived an impossible 5-year journey across the entire planet, carrying the last words of shipwrecked sailors? To even begin to figure that out, we have to rewind. We're going back to the end of 2020, because the name that was scrawled on that little piece of paper, Yu Sing 18, belonged to a real ship with a real crew that completely vanished without a trace in the huge, unforgiving emptiness of the North Pacific. The Yong Yu Sing No. 18 was a Taiwanese tuna longliner. And you gotta understand, this is a tough life. These are commercial fishing vessels where crews put up with months of isolation and just grueling work. On board, you had the Taiwanese captain, a man named Lee, and his 9 Indonesian crew members, all of them seasoned sailors who knew the ocean's dangers all too well. Now look how quickly this all unfolded. December 30th, 2020, all contact is lost. By January 2nd, a U.S. search plane had already found the ship. But, and this is the whole thing right here, when authorities finally managed to board it weeks later, it was completely empty. The ship was there, but all 10 men were gone. You can see there's some serious damage here to the hull and the captain's cabin, but the ship itself was still floating. It was seaworthy. And crucially, investigators found that all 10 crew members were missing, along with one of the ship's inflatable life rafts. That one detail, it's going to become central to this entire mystery. So what on earth happened out there? Well, the official investigation from Taiwanese authorities pointed to a single terrifying cause, a weather event of almost unimaginable power that the ship, unfortunately, sailed directly into. Okay, the scientific term is explosive cyclogenesis, which is a mouthful, but you can just think of it as a weather bomb. It's basically a storm that intensifies at this breathtaking rate, creating just truly monstrous conditions out on the open ocean. And the storm that hit the Yong Yu Sing? It was a record breaker. We are talking about winds over 100 miles per hour and waves reaching a staggering 60 feet high. Seriously, just try to picture that. A wall of water the size of a 6-story building crashing down on you. An absolute monster. So after they towed the ship back to port and did a full forensic analysis, the Yilan District Prosecutor's Office found no signs of foul play. No fighting, no piracy, no explosion. Their conclusion was pretty simple. It was a tragic maritime accident. Case closed. End of story. Now, let's jump back to that bottle found in Ireland, because for the internet, this case was anything but closed. And this is where we see the really unique power of a bunch of people online as a community of sleuths on Reddit just immediately got to work. And the connections they started finding were they were too specific to be a coincidence. The ship's name was a direct match. The message was in Indonesian, which was the nationality of 9 of the 10 crewmen. The single Chinese character was Lee, the surname of the Taiwanese captain. And the date, 12/20, perfectly matched the month and year the ship went missing. The odds of all that lining up are just staggering. You could feel the mood on that Reddit thread just shift instantly, from kind of a casual curiosity to just
stunned disbelief. This comment right here, it perfectly captures that exact moment of realization, that what looked like a joke might actually be an incredibly important clue in a real-life tragedy.
And that online shock, it quickly turned into real-world action. People started looking up contact info for the Irish Coast Guard, for Taiwanese authorities, for Indonesian embassies, all of them urging the original poster to report the find immediately. This wasn't just about upvotes anymore. So, of course, the Reddit post just exploded. And suddenly, this wasn't just some internet curiosity. Mainstream news outlets in Taiwan and Malaysia picked up the story. And all of a sudden, a 5-year-old cold case was back in the headlines. All because of a bottle that washed up thousands of miles away. So this is where we're left. On one hand, you have an official report that says this was a tragic accident at sea. On the other, you have a message in a bottle that suggests a story of survival, a story that raises this whole ocean of new and, honestly, pretty haunting questions. And this is probably the biggest, most difficult question to answer. The ship was damaged, sure, but it was still floating. So why would a crew of experienced sailors abandon their big steel vessel for a tiny inflatable life raft in the middle of a historic storm with 60-foot waves? It seems to defy all logic. So really, we're left with 3 completely different realities. 1, it was just a tragic accident. The crew was lost to the storm, just like the authorities said. 2, the message is a genuine cry for help from survivors who, somehow, against all odds, reached land. Or 3, this is all just a cruel, elaborate hoax, crafted by someone who knew way too much about the case. What started out as a totally routine fishing trip ended as a ghost ship adrift in the Pacific. For 5 years, it was a closed case, nothing more than a footnote in maritime records. But with the discovery of one single bottle, it has become one of the most compelling and enduring mysteries of our time. And that leaves us with this final thought. For the families of those 10 men who vanished, this message has to be a total paradox. Is it a cruel trick that's just offering a painful glimmer of false hope? Or could it possibly be the one clue that finally gives them an answer to where their loved ones went after they were swallowed by the sea?